minister. So if that's the spirit of the motion, I'm prepared to support it. I'm not quite ready to jump in on, we're ready to sign up for a study.
Thank you, Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through to Councillor Plant. So your whole motion includes a paragraph prior to drafting. Is that part of your motion, or are you just moving the top part?
I'm sorry, Councillor Brown.
So you have, be it resolved that Saanich will write, and then the second paragraph, prior to drafting the letter, residents will be invited to a public meeting to provide feedback. Is that part of your motion?
Correct.
Thank you. I was glad for the feedback from the community. There was some discussions during the election that our question was obscure, not what the people wanted. But Saanich residents like community-based, community involvement, community conversations. And so I think the question was appropriate for Saanich. There were some people talking about partnerships. I think part of the discussion is around education as well, because there's a lot of people talking about, well, we've got to amalgamate because we'll save money or whatever the discussion is. But you're not talking about how many integrated services, how many fee-for-service Saanich already gets through things like dispatch. So it's part of that education as well. Saanich was the one who actually worked with all the other municipalities to harmonize a business license, and it's a regional business license. So I know these things can happen. The wording of Councillor Plant's letter, I think, is too vague. I think that there might be some opportunity around money. I think if you ask people and you ask the government, okay, let's study the financial implications. So debt load, how much you're paying for taxes, value for money, and all those sorts of things. Those might be a really key one for us to look at. But writing the minister without having any terms of reference and not even knowing what control the province will take on the process, which worries me tremendously, how my community gets to sit down at a table and have conversations. And when I talk my community, I mean business, I mean nonprofits, I mean our senior citizens, I mean our young families. Those are the conversations we need to hear as a council. And so just jumping in and saying, yes, Minister Oakes, we're there, without finding from her how much money she really is going to give us, because yes, the province does, put some money into studies, but I don't really know what that is. And yes, there'll be a lot of our staff time. It's not as simple as saying to the minister, you know what, we have 100 firefighters, they get paid this amount of money, and that's simple. It is so much more detailed than that. And so there'll be a lot of staff time involved with some of that. So although I agree with my colleagues that if the letter was to ask her for, tell us your terms of reference, who gets to decide who sits on a special commission to run the process? And how does every resident of every municipality that signs on gets to be involved? Those are all key things for me. We have a report coming from our consultant on our community-based process. That is to come to us in June. I think we should wait till we have that process. When we look at it, we may pick out right from there, you know what? This is a provincial item that we need to be involved with as the province looks at whatever they're trying to look at for terms of reference. Personally, I think that that's where this needs to go, is to that meeting when we'll have the consultant's report on our roadmap. And then when we see the roadmap, this council is very astute, and so are the public. We will be able to decide what's missing and what parts that the provincial study might be applicable. In the meantime, maybe we need to find out from the province what the terms of reference are, what the commission is, how they see that happening. Personally, through the election, they had 3 municipalities. They had Sydney, North Saanich, and Central Saanich. If they wanted to do a study, there's 3 key people or municipalities that voted for it. Wouldn't you want to start with 3 that were kind of shaking hands already and saying, let's take this as a good example, because they're all involved with the CRD, they're all involved with other things. But for me, I can't vote for this motion as it is right now. There needs to be far more detail for me, kind of around, you know, what they're really going to study in terms of reference. I did see the amalgamation yes questions. I thought council did respond to the City of Victoria, but, you know, I could be wrong. But anyway, I can't support the motion the way it is on the table.
Councillor Haynes.
I greatly appreciate the insights that my colleagues have brought forward. Very, very telling, very, very informative. Where I'm a little bit perplexed is I thought that this motion exactly opened the door to the things that you're asking for when it says the letter will be developed by Mayor and Council with assistance of staff. So all the things that you've raised, my understanding was that that's when that activity would go on. It seems that you're asking to do all those things before we put a motion to the floor, right? So I'm a bit puzzled why you wouldn't have confidence if we can do those things before the motion comes to the floor. Why wouldn't we be able to do those things once the motion's in play? And it asks us to form terms of reference. It asks us to ask the province about the funding, because we would be empowered then to do. And also, in terms of consulting our citizens, yes, of course. And personally, if I got 25% of the total electorate of Saanich voting for me, I'd be very pleased with that. Prior to drafting the letter, residents will be invited to a public meeting to provide feedback to Mayor and Council as to what should be included in our letter. And my understanding, and clearly it may be different to other people's, is that the letter would be developed, the terms of reference would be developed by Council. This would then go to public to give them some terms of reference to look at. They would get their feedback. We would then retool the terms of reference. This will take a little bit of time. Certainly the reports coming from our Council consultant could be fed into that. So I'm not having the same difficulty as my colleagues are with this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Dermott, and then Bryce. And then I'd like to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to respond to what Councillor Haynes first just said. And the reason why there is some difficulty is the first sentence in the motion. Saanich will write a letter to Minister Corley Oakes indicating our willingness to participate in the study. No, that depends upon the nature of the study. So if it had said something like, we'll write a letter to Minister Corley Oakes indicating our willingness to participate, our in principle, our willingness to participate in a study, depending upon the terms of reference and nature of the study, then I could support that. But I can't support it where it says, oh, we're willing to participate, plain and simple. So if, you know, and I'm not trying to shake Councillor Plant's motion, but it had it said to, in principle, willingness to participate in a study depending upon the terms of reference and nature of the study proposed, then that would put the ball in the province's court to say, here is what we're proposing to do, and then Saanich would have reserved its right to say, yeah, that seems reasonable, or no, that's not what we can take part in.
Would someone like to move an amendment to that effect?
I will move an amendment that I hope this is a friendly amendment, that Saanich will write a letter to Minister Corley Oakes indicating our willingness in principle to participate in a study of governance for the region, dependent upon the terms of reference and nature of the study that is proposed.
Second.
Discussion. Councillor Plant.
Thank you. I am always at this table willing to go with the majority of council, and I think that's what being a good team player is. And so if the concern here is that it's too vague, then I would say I put too much faith in everybody here being able to craft a letter that would address these concerns you just spent a half hour saying. And I don't mean that flippantly. I meant it to have an open forum that this letter could say all of this. The willingness to say is like, yeah, I'm interested in your study. And then maybe if I should have said the interest. So am I in favor of the amendment? Yes, I am. Do I think the initial motion had the opportunity for all of us to say exactly those things? Yeah, I didn't want to be too prescriptive tonight.
Councillor Bryce?
I think the motion, or at least what is being proposed here, it certainly will accomplish it. It does presuppose a certain list of answers coming back in terms of, what are the terms of reference, who's going to be involved, and so on. In our sheer interest in pleasing the minister and responding, I would be far more happier asking for all this information, and in light of that information saying, hey, we're on board, we're on it. But that does not seem to be the A to B, B to C kind of route that we're going to go. So if, I guess, in the end it will all come out, but I think that we have to be very specific in our letter to the province, because once we're in, obviously there would be staff time and resources and energy and such, and so I don't think this is something that can be just sort of tossed out there and then we'll wait and see after all the work is done, after all the money's spent, whether that's something that appeals to us. But I think there's some hard questions to ask the province at this time, because despite the fact that somebody said tonight, how inappropriate for us not to sort of leap in with Victoria. Victoria shot out of the starting gates, embraced the amalgamation yes question, embraced the amalgamation yes terms of reference, and they've staked out their place. So the minister may find a different perspective coming from Saanich. And so whether